right. What's up, guys? This is While Supplies Last, the marketing podcast, where we talk about all things business and marketing. I'm Gabby, and I'm the marketing manager for Peachtree Rose Marketing.
Hi, and I'm Candace. I'm project manager at Peachtree Rose Marketing. I also dibble and dabble in graphic design, social media, and direct mail. And today, sitting with us, we have Zakalia Washington.
Hi, thank you all for having me.
Zakalia is the account manager for Full of Grace Marketing. Full of Grace Marketing specializes in email management, social media, and website management in San Antonio. Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's discussion on brand awareness.
Thank you.
So if you're a business owner or entrepreneur and you don't know what brand awareness is simply how familiar people are with your brand. And it's really important because it's what makes you recognizable, and it helps people be more trusting in looking into your services and your products. And they feel more comfortable with your brand because they know who you are. So do you have any more you'd like to add?
I think that was a good sum up of what it is. And when I think about brand awareness, I actually think about like brand recognition. And there's some other few terms you can think of when it comes to brand, but having people become familiar with your brand. Yeah, that's on point.
Okay.
All right, great. So tell us some more about Full of Grace Marketing and some unique marketing choices that your agency has made to help build your brand awareness.
So at Full of Grace, we are real big on integrity, consistency, and personalization. So one thing that we've come to tap into is with our clients is for their audience is really have them move from sales to more personality-based. So essentially, and we'll get into this probably a little later because I think it's important for people to show their personalities, especially when you're on social media. It's so easy to be, I want to say the word fake. It's so easy to be fake, and it's so easy to just jump on everything on the bandwagon, get on that bus that everybody's doing. But with us, we definitely push consistency, push using your personality versus trying to sell something all the time. So that's what we really specialize in. Bring out your personality.
So we understand that social media is a great tool. Have you ever run across any small business owners or business owners in San Antonio that have been just outright like they're against social media? We've come across a couple that have told us like they don't believe it. And like you said, I think it's because a lot of them, starting off, they want to see the sales, they want that ROI, and they're not understanding of what brand awareness really is and how, like, sometimes it can be kind of a long game, and they're looking for, like, that instant, like, sales off of social media, so they don't really believe in social media. Have you run across any business owners like that, and what do you kind of, like, explain to them on how they should actually be using social media as a good tool for them?
Yes, of course I have, like as you all have as well. Generally, it's, we have skepticism, and then it's generally from people who are unfamiliar with social media, who don't have a true understanding of its purpose and what it is, maybe more people who are more traditional. And my advice to them is to take it one platform at a time, and you don't necessarily have to be on all of them, but try one out and see if you like it, see where your audience is. And then we also say, if this is where your audience is, then why aren't you there? Like, let's go where your audience is. If your audience is on TikTok, if your audience is on Instagram, LinkedIn, go where your audience is and then provide a need for them and then give them what they need. Give them what they're looking for. There's this old school motto that I learned when I was a little girl. It was like ministering to the needs of the people. If you have a need and if you can supply a need, people come where a need is met. People come, like we go to the grocery store, right? Because we need milk, we need bread, we need eggs, whatever it is, that grocery store meets your need, so you're there. So when we encounter people who are like, social media doesn't work, it's not my job to like try to convince you that it works. Either you believe it or you don't. But what I can tell you is advise you like, hey, well, this is where it is. Let's try this out, for 6 months. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You tried it, but you can't not try, right?
I think also a little bit that goes to they probably haven't put in like time to do any market research to find out where their target audience is. So that's where they've been having a lot of trouble is, like you said, they're a B2B and they're not on LinkedIn. They're on TikTok or they're on, Facebook, and they're having a hard time when they might actually be doing really well on LinkedIn and they haven't fully taken advantage of that platform.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
right. Yeah. And I think some of that, sometimes it's not intuitive at first. It's not. But I think as you move in that space, you can become more familiar and get more comfortable with it a little at a time, gradually. And you don't have to just go diving and, cannonballing in the pool here. But a little at a time, put your feet in a little bit, kind of wade in the water and see what you're comfortable with as a business owner, as a service provider. See what it is that you find that works for you. And definitely that market research is so, so important. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. I definitely agree with you on that, Candace. Like, you do have to do your due diligence. You do have to do some research. You can't just go jumping in like cannonball. No, you take your time, do some research. That way, when you do launch, when you do decide on a platform, you're comfortable with it and that's where your audience is.
I feel too, some people will they'll post maybe once or twice a week for a month and be like, where are my customers? Like, nobody's come in. Like, I'm not getting more money or getting more business.
Yes, I feel like we've all heard that story. Like, you want that quick ROI, just super fast. I'm sorry, it doesn't work like that. It does take some time. Now, unless you're spending, large lump sums of money, you may see an ROI a lot faster. But if you're spending, maybe $1,000 a month on advertising and then putting out a post and then trying to boost or Google Ads, whatever the case may be, it does take some time to see an ROI, a sufficient ROI, actually.
Yeah, speaking of online advertising, so we tend to tailor our services and strategies to each individual customer and as well as their budgets. So how do you think people should budget for online advertising to help build brand awareness?
I think if you look at what your objective is, what's your goal? So you want to advertise, but what is the goal that you want this advertisement to do? Do you want the phone to ring? Do you want forms filled out? What do you want? Do you want more websites visits so you can use your Google Analytics to track them and then retarget them? What is it that you want the ad to do? So based off of that goal, I would use a lot of budget to push that goal. So whatever number you have in mind. So this month we say we want to hit 20 to 40,000 people visiting our website so we can then in turn at some point retarget them, our website visitors retarget them. Look at that and look at that goal and base your budget around that. So if you have $1,000, stretch it as much as you can. And I love the meta advertising. And because we're in social media at Full of Grace Marketing, that's what we do. So a lot of our advertising is on Meta. It is on Facebook. It is on Instagram, those platforms. And I mean, the return on Facebook, oh my gosh, $3. Like, you can stretch that $3. And I don't want to get into that, but there's this thing. It's like advertising for everyone. Mm-hmm. And you can literally spend like $2 a day and advertise everywhere. Don't necessarily, I wouldn't suggest like niching down, like this is my audience, this is here, but let Facebook do the work. Like if you're on Facebook, Instagram, let it do the work because it's come a long way. And you can take that $2, stretch it out just for brand awareness only. Like I would start at brand awareness only, nothing else. Don't try to sell anything. Don't try to do some major call to actions where you use the call button. That's a hard tooth to pull. Yeah. But brand awareness, get the word out there, promote locally, get people just seeing the brand, familiarizing yourself. Like we said at the top of the show, like brand awareness, familiarizing, like allow people to become familiar with your brand. Just let them see it.
Yeah, let them know that you're here.
Yes,
because that could be really difficult for some people. Like starting out, if you're just starting your business and you get an Instagram page, you have 0 followers. Like, who's seeing it? Like, how are you going to get sales and you don't have any followers? Like, there's things that you can do, but obviously that's going to take time. So sometimes having to put that money into just boosting your brand awareness, trying to get, as much eyes on your page as possible and letting people know that you're out there will really help at the beginning.
And I think a lot of it is, so I'll say this. There's this book by Max Lucado called Common Life, The Cure for the Common Life. And at the very first chapter, there's this part, I love it. It's called the sweet spot. And it's a zone or a region, a life precinct in which you were designed to dwell. I think with a company, a service, a business, a brand, you have to find your sweet spot. You have to find, I don't want to say niche, but your sweet spot, because in your sweet spot, you're comfortable, you rule, right? And it's just like a natural ruling. It's a space that you have domain, you have authority over. And if you find that sweet spot, oh my God, it tastes so good. It tastes so good. It's like a sweet tooth. You have that sweet tooth and you satisfy it. It's like, I'm here. Like, this tastes so good. And then I think you just have to find that sweet spot and find what works for you. And when you find what works for you, stay there. And don't just stay there, but grow from there. Grow from there. Yeah.
So from your perspective, you're talking about growing and evolution. How and why do brands' perceptions change over time, and what can businesses do to manage that?
Yeah, I want to say it's a variety of reasons, right? The market trends shift, culture shift, the business changes, people, you hire different people and they bring in their different perceptions and they have ideas and you just start to shift with them, or you start to shift with culture. And from my perspective, I think the tone of a brand has to stay relevant and it has to stay consistent. So if you are changing and things are kind of changing and shifting for you, just kind of stay with the trend, stay with the cultural shift, stay with what's up, because there's nothing more than, I know newspapers are still around because they call me all the time. But what will that give you, like a great ROI? Like if you put an ad in the newspaper and let's say it's only circulating to 50 people. I mean, unless it's the 1% of people, unless it's going directly to them, then I would say shift. It's time to think about, it's time to pivot. So I'm an ex-basketball player and I was a center. And when they would pass me the ball, sometimes I would freeze up and I would hear my coach on the sideline like, Z, turn, pivot, move your foot. And I would be like, I turn and there the basket would be right there. I have a nice clear shot. Sometimes when things are shifting around you, pay attention to the signs around you. It's okay to pivot. It's okay to shift. It can be scary, but once you pivot and you shift and things change and things are changing now, it's okay. And then you find that sweet spot again, and then you could have a very well clear shot and make it be successful, thrive, whatever word you want to use there. You could do all those things.
Yeah, I think it's really important for businesses to, like you say, change and go with the trends and how things are going. But they need to keep in mind, to have authenticity and keep the root values of the core of who they are, the essence of what they bring to the table and what their brand really is. And then take that, and if they have that foundation, they'll be able to move with the trends, move along. So not you can transfer what you're doing for print to digital to, so wherever things in the trends start flowing, you should still be able to not replicate it, but transfer it.
Yeah. And staying authentic, while evolving, I think that's key. And you kind of were touching on that a little bit, but I think it's important to stay authentic, stay true to the brand. I think, I know you all, a lot of people are probably familiar with Church's Chicken. So years ago, Church's Chicken used to be, their colors were this yellow, very bright colors. Now the colors are it's more Black Label. It has more of a sophisticated look. So it's still Church's chicken. Like, it still tastes good. It's been a long time since I ate it, but it still tastes good. But the look, it's more sleek. And you're like, oh, it's still Church's, but it looks more sleek. Like, they're still authentic. And it's still nice and it's more compelling, actually.
I know. I feel like sometimes when it comes to like pivoting, some businesses might be afraid. They're kind of just stuck in their ways. They don't want to like get outside the bounds of what they're used to, as far as like brand awareness and everything. And I feel like that could be holding them back, especially from finding that sweet spot, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you're a business owner and you're struggling and you're kind of fearful of the unknown, like, we've all been there. The fear of the unknown, the fear of, well, what if it doesn't work? Or what if we change and we lose instead of gaining? I think you just, again, like, put your toe in that water, taste it a little bit. What's that saying? They say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Just taste it a little bit. And there's this saying that says, oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. But taste and see. I mean, your business, it may go good, it may not. But if not, you may have a contingency plan. But taste and see, at least you have to taste it. Like, open up. You have to taste it. Open up a little bit. Like, you can't be closed off. Like, open yourself up to new things.
Yeah, and there's no saying that once you start doing that change, that it has to be a very abrupt change. Mm-hmm. Like, when you're changing your branding, like, all of a sudden, then the next day, everything's completely different. Like, you could be testing out different stuff on social media, maybe doing like a post here, doing paid advertisement, doing 2 different types of posts, and then seeing which one like people are gravitating towards more. And that would direct you as to like where you should take your brand. So there's nothing saying like, oh, we're just going to, jump off the deep end and now we have all new colors, all new this. Like, you could just kind of trickle it in, find out what works well with your audience more, what do they gravitate towards more, and then start incorporating that into your brand. And I think that would really help with brand recognition. I know a lot of times brands, when they are first starting out, they'll switch up. Like, if things aren't going right, they're like, oh, I need to change my logo. I need to change this. And then they start making changes like really abruptly.
Yeah, you're like, wait.
And I'm like, wait, I don't know who you are anymore. So I would say to make those transitions kind of seamless by testing stuff out with your audience.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what you were saying earlier, Candace, about research. Like, I think you can also do your research with colors. You can do your research of what are people gravitating to more, and that's going into that A/B testing you were mentioning as well. Like, test it out, try some colors maybe on an ad, or try some colors in a story or a post, and see what people gravitate to more. And then if you feel like it, as an owner, if you feel like it fits, hey, this color really flows with who we are. Like, I know nobody likes red. But me personally, red is my favorite color. But they're like, don't use red on posts. Don't use red in advertising. But red is a very compelling color, and it's an authority color as well. So I just feel like once you do your research, test it out as well.
Yeah. And like, as you go back to colors, there's also like a little bit of psychology around colors, because I know a lot of restaurants use the color red. Because apparently it's supposed to like entice hunger and things like that. So those are some of the things that you would also want to consider for your brand awareness. Like, what do the colors and the symbolisms like represent for my brand, but also like, how's it going to make people feel? What are people going to think when they see this?
Yeah. And how do you want them to feel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with any industry, I know people want to be a leader, like whether you're in marketing or tech or fashion. What are some steps you would recommend for businesses to establish themselves as a leader?
I want to say get real good at storytelling. Mm-hmm. Real good at it. And I want to use this example. The company I can think of is Disney. I feel like when I was a young girl, I could open a book and it would start with once upon a time or far, far away. Even when I watch Shrek now, it's at some point at the very beginning, far, far away. It pulls you in because at the end of the day, I feel like people buy the story versus a product or a service. How many times have you went and purchased something and you were like, man, I love the story behind this brand, or I love the story behind this product, or I love the story behind this individual. You love their story. There's always that heroic story or the damsel in distress story that you hear so often, but get real good at storytelling and tell that narrative because it's attractive and it builds, it builds like trust, it builds I keep saying compelling, but stories can be compelling. It draws you in. So my suggestion would be get real good at storytelling and then consistency. Like there's nothing like seeing a brand here one day and then you get excited about what they're doing and then you go to look at what they're doing and then nothing's there. Right? How irritating is that? Nothing's there, but be consistent. If you're going to be relevant, especially now with the way the pace everything moves now, I feel like you almost have to post or do something every day. But be consistent in that space and then get really good at storytelling. If you don't have a copywriter, get a copywriter. Hire one. They are great at telling stories and they can write it out and map it out for you.
Yeah, I agree. It makes me think of different brands. They all have different stories, but I immediately think of Louis Vuitton. So everybody knows them now as like a fashion house, but they started as a luggage company. So back in the day when everything was being shipped, people would take ships across the ocean. Most of the luggage that you took, it was round on the top. But Louis Vuitton, they decided to make them flat on top so you could stack everything and you were able to bring more. And that's carried them through decades, and they're still considered a leader in their industry.
Yeah, I think that's good. There's a man, his name is, I think I'm saying his last name correct, Michael Morales, Magolis. He is really good at storytelling. I mean, he has an awesome podcast as well, but it's about narrative writing and writing a good narrative. And then not only that, I think if you have a product that you genuinely believe in and maybe it's not doing so well, or you want to kind of shift things around a little bit, tell a good story behind it and then push it out. If you're pushing it out to, 50K, push it out just a little more, just a little, and 10% more. Push it out 10% more every month and watch the growth and watch things begin to shift and change because consistency, a good storytelling, a good product, I feel like you just can't fail. A good team, a good copywriter, you have a social media team, the entire, the works is what I call it. You have the works, you have a good team, a support behind you, and you have a good, a vision, a mission for your company. I don't think you can fail. It may be hard, but I don't think you can fail.
As you were talking about it, I was the word I kept thinking about was connection. Yes. That's what storytelling is all about, building that connection. And then consistency is okay, I have this connection. They find you, but then they don't see anything. They have that connection, and then they kind of lose it once you stop being consistent. And then you fade a little bit because there's so much. We see so much on screens and so that's one of the reasons why consistency is so important. You kind of want to stay on the top of their mind, but also you don't want to lose that, connection with your audience because that'll happen, and then they'll start connecting with somebody else.
Yes. So true story. There's this brand. I'm not going to say its name, but there's this brand that that grew to a large number and. So they were using user-generated content. They were using ambassadors. They were using influencers to build their brand, the whole nine. And then you see them growing on social media. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, where'd they go? What happened? They were here on TikTok and it was it was for mothers. So you see all these mothers doing all this content. and it was free. But all of a sudden, they just disappeared. And you're like, wait, where are they? This is such a good product. Like, people still need it. Like, don't disappear on us. Like, we want you. We need you. Don't disappear.
Yeah, there's been several brands where I've seen that happen. I'm like, wait, hold up. I'm like, are they still around? I don't see them. I don't see them in my feed. You go and look at their page, and you're like, oh, they haven't posted in a while.
I know.
I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah,
It's like a hard breakup, like online. Like, you're breaking our heart. Like, we want to see you.
yeah, and you look forward to it. Like
Yes.
when you go on, you're like, oh, especially if you really connect with their brand. Like if they have, they're funny or, sentimental. Like you look forward to getting that little like funny quip or the funny ad and then all of a sudden they're gone. And you're like, oh, okay.
Oh,
Well,
my.
I'm just gonna keep going down my feed.
And and when that happens, you lose trust, right? You lose trust in that brand. And so when they come back, it's like they're coming back and they're having to build up. They have to get you to trust them again.
Yeah.
And it's just so hard to do. Just stay consistent. If you're struggling, find an agency to help you, or find some inspiration online. I feel like a lot of people may have a young adult in their life or a teenager. Nowadays, teenagers really know how to do a lot of video editing. Grab someone, find someone to assist you in being consistent, because you break our heart when you leave. We want you. Like, we love you. We need you. And then when you break our hearts, it's like a relationship. You're like, oh, well, I don't know. Like, you cheated on me. I don't know if I could trust you that easily. Like, you left. Yeah.
And maybe sometimes it could be that, again, they're not seeing, especially someone starting out or small businesses, they're not seeing the return. And that might be because they're not utilizing like their analytics or their insights. So how important is it that these small businesses measure their brand awareness through their insights, and how can they use that data to inform like their future strategies?
Data is we're in such a data-driven like society. Like, a lot of these larger companies, they base a lot of what they do, a lot of their changes and everything based off of data. And if you're not using data to shift and pivot, then I think there is an element that you're missing, an audience that you're missing. There's a gap in the business. And when you're using data, I'll use this as example. I think of the tile in the shower, how it fills in those gaps. When you first put it in, the filler, I can't think of the name of that.
The grout.
The grout. You put that grout in those cracks and it seals it, and it just makes that wall more sturdy. It makes it look more cohesive. Like, it gives it a very nice look. But if you're just not using data, just think of you're taking a shower and no grout being on that tile and the tile is falling down. You're like, let me put that back up there. But if you use data to shift things, if you use data, like if you want to look at, let's talk about website. Hopefully a lot of business owners, if you don't have Google Analytics attached to your website, please do so. And you can see where they're coming from. You can see what platform they're coming, how long they're staying on your page, where they are leaving. And I think it's good to analyze that. Look at that data, especially with Google Analytics. Look at that data, because if you're talking about a website, and I'll use website specifically, if they come on your landing page or your home page and they're there for, you see across the board it's 5 seconds, everyone's leaving, then it's time to look at, well, what is on the home page? Why are they leaving so fast? What can we do to adjust to get people to stay? Because if it's 5 seconds or maybe 0.1 seconds, then that's not enough time to read, retain anything, to click around on anything, to see what they're doing and discovering. So it's good to look at data to track. It's good to look at it to adjust. It's good to look at it to create as well.
Nice. So I actually want to touch on brand voice really quick. Whenever people think of brand awareness, they're always thinking of like the visual aspect. So like the colors, the aesthetic, but people don't really, I guess, maybe not think about the voice aspect. So with the copy, how important do you think brand voice is?
For me, brand voice is the tone I want to set. It's what I want people to know me as. And like we all know the slogan, I guess, for Nike. We all know it's just do it, right? Mm-hmm. To me, that's a part of their brand voice. This is the tone that they're setting. And sometimes, if I know you probably used it in a setting or in a conversation, like, oh, just do it. That is the tone that they're setting. It's like, you can achieve. You can do this. This is the tone that they're setting. So when you're thinking of your brand voice, what tone do you want to set? What tone is it that you want to set, whether it's atmospheric, whether it's financial, whether it's conversational? What tone do you want to set when people sit down to talk about your business? When it comes to brand voice, I just think it's the tone. I think you have to think about the tone in which you want to set for people.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting. So I saw a post that I don't think a lot of business owners or entrepreneurs realize, that like every platform, you kind of speak differently on each platform. So I saw a post and I was like, oh, that made it really simple to kind of think about. Like, think of LinkedIn as the company picnic. Think of Facebook as the family reunion. And that's how you kind of want to show up on each platform. So you wouldn't necessarily post the same thing on Instagram that you would on LinkedIn, but you would still have that same kind of overall like tone to it. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. But you still have that same like brand, but you have different, I guess, ways of delivering on different platforms. But you're still going to have that same tone, that same voice.
Yeah, each platform, there definitely is the way you want to communicate on each platform, because that's what brand voice is. It's the way you want to communicate, or for businesses or B2B or B2C, how do you want to communicate? So if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, that communication, that wording should be different. Yeah. It should. I highly doubt if I would be on LinkedIn saying, hey, girl, hey. But on TikTok, maybe.
I have seen some people on LinkedIn be, hey, girl, hey.
No, I kind of think of like when you answer the phone. It's like if you're at work, hi, this is Gabby with Peachtree Rose Marketing. How can I help you? Or if like somebody calls me outside of work, like, hey, what's up?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what tips would you give a small business owner trying to interpret surveys and feedback to create a more informed brand awareness strategy?
When you do surveys, I think a lot of people focus on the common theme, right? And when you're looking at something, they're all answering the same question. You look at that common theme. But what I personally like to do is, if I have a stack of 50 papers here, if it's a survey by paper, and I have 50 here and I have 2 sheets of paper over here, I'm probably going to ignore the 50 and look at the 2 pieces of paper and see who went against the grain and what was different. Now, if it's someone saying, I just don't like you, or it's just this, I want to look at what's different and why do they feel this way. And then internally evaluate what are we doing here? Is there any truth behind this? That's important. Is there any truth behind what's being said here? And when you're looking at a survey, take that information. If everyone's saying, "Oh, you're great, this is good," or "improve here, improve there," look at everything, but don't spend so much time on what the common crowd is saying, or what the heavier weight of the words are saying. Don't spend too much time there, but spend more time on what's different. So I say this. If we were all sitting here, we're a choir, right? Let's pretend to be a choir. We sing in unison. If we're all like, ah, but if I were to sing and I was off key and we were all like, ah, and I was like, ah, you'd be like, oh, that note is off. You would hear that off note more than you would hear the unison key. So I take that same perspective when it comes to looking at surveys. Where is that off key? what's that thorn in my flesh? What's that thing that's like annoying someone or annoying a customer? Because it's important and it's relevant. I feel like if there's any truth in it, highly consider it, highly take it in and see what you can adjust to do, because it's important to look at feedback. It's important to look at the common theme of what your customers love and areas that they think need to be improved, and then use those insights to tweak your messaging, to refine your product offerings, and then break down that survey data by demographic and behavior and see how those different segments of your audience are viewed by your brand, and then tailor that to your strategy accordingly. I feel like don't just take it and just run with it. Oh, they said that we should. Someone's not happy. Let's use example for a coffee shop. Someone's like, get rid of this drink. But then like 150 people versus this one person, everyone loves it. And this one person's like, we don't like it. Well, we're keeping this drink. Like you're just, a drop in the bucket, unfortunately, but we're keeping this drink. Yeah.
So why do you believe it's important for businesses to measure brand awareness, and how can they use this data to inform future strategies?
Brand awareness gives businesses insights into how recognizable and trusted they are by their audience. So measuring this, whether it's through surveys or social listening, it's important to look at that. And then I want to flow here just for a little bit. So there's this movie I recently looked at. It's called Cartoon. I do watch cartoons. Migration. So there was this duck. He had this family, and they stayed in this pond. And this other duck family came in, and I think one of the small duck girls was like, we're going to Jamaica. And the little boy was like, Dad, can we go to Jamaica? He was like, no, everything we need is right here in this pond. Like, why should we leave? And eventually he saw like his uncle. He was like, oh, yeah, be like me. I'm going to stay in this pond. It's right here. And he had like an aha moment. And he was like, we're not staying here. And then all of a sudden it shifts. You see him like moving, and he's like, family, let's get up. We're going. And then as they're going and leaving the pond, they go into an adventure and they experience, things they never would have experienced in the pond before. And so when you're looking at measuring brand awareness, you're looking at strategy and insight, don't be afraid to go outside that pond. Go outside your comfort zone, pretty much is what I'm saying, because you never know what's out there. You may run into somebody else. Hey, what are you doing? We're migrating too, and we're not competitors. We're actually partners in this. And so as you go out, you'll find yourself running into people who are on the same plane, going the same direction, doing the same thing, and you can take tips from them. You can make them referral partners. But I think you have to get outside of your pond, or else this is just all that people will see. There's there's so many millions and billions of people in the world that if you just cater to, or you just want to be seen by maybe 50,000, you're missing a whole market. You're missing some growth. You're missing some scaling. And I know there's this, I'm not going to talk about podcasts, but there's this podcast I listen to as well. And some people don't want to scale. And if you don't want to scale, that's okay too. You don't have to necessarily scale. Scaling doesn't have to measure your success. So if you feel like, hey, I want to measure my success by the amount of zeros I see in the bank, or amount of, if I want to pay my CFO, $500,000 a year, then that's your measure of success. Then you have to scale. You have to come outside your pond, and you have to migrate. You have to move. Go where the sun is.
Well, thank you so much. That wraps up today's episode of While Supplies Last, the podcast. Big thank you to our guest, Zakalia Washington from Full of Grace Marketing, for sharing your insights on building brand awareness. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. And you can find us on YouTube and Spotify to catch all of our latest episodes. If you have any questions for us or want to work with us, you can visit us at peachtreerosemarketing.com for more information. And Zakalia, where can they find Full of Grace?
Full of Grace is the same on every platform. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, probably all of the social media outlets, and it is Full of Grace Marketing.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time.
Yes. Bye, guys.
Bye.